Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to another episode of the No Fluff MSP Marketing Podcast. Today, I'm super stoked. We're doing a member series, so I got a member on, Zvon. Zvon, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I had to ask how to say your name, so you know what it's like to have that name. Like, I just tell everybody it's like Chevy Tahoe, but with a her at the end. I don't know if you have a mnemonic device. Do you?
There's a bunch. There's a city or a town in the area called Vaughn.
Okay.
Spelled Vaughan, which is dramatically different. But I'm like Vaughn with a Z, so Zvon, right? And that works locally, but it doesn't translate well once I hit the States or go to a conference or anything. So
yeah,
my dad always said to me, he goes, just teach people your name, they'll get it. It's not hard, right?
Yeah.
So
Vince Vaughn with a Z in the front.
There you go. That's a really good one.
Cool, man. Well, I'm stoked to have you today. I know we were kind of emailing the other day. You were interested in kind of joining Grow Group, which is, I'd love to hear, and love to hear kind of your success and struggles and everything else. So I kind of was like, hey, man, you got some time next Tuesday? And you were like, yeah. I'm like, sweet. which seems to be the case with most members I've asked so far. They're all just like, sure, let's do it. Which just really appreciate you doing that, man.
I think we've got a cool story. It's not unique in the industry, but it's unique in our sort of focus because we did this whole merger thing in October of 23. I guess a little bit of backstory might help because MSPs are traditionally, I'm usually the black sheep, so to speak, in the MSP space because I started my business anyway, originally doing only Mac support. And I know that that's like the Antichrist for many of you that are listening, I'm sure. But hey, you guys didn't want to do it, so to speak. So I was like, I'll take all that business, no problem. And there was reasons for that. My upbringing was the PC tech, working for an MSP-esque type company, and I sort of got disenfranchised with that. I got kind of sick of the whole Vista, cleaning up viruses all day manually, and that was way back when. Now that I think about it, but I really started to kind of journey onto a new path, right? And it was either, go do drywall or construction because I'm sick of this IT stuff, or pivot. And I really believed that I was much smarter than going to construction. And so I was like, okay, let me utilize my brain here. And we pivoted to some Mac support. I always kind of traditionally had some design background, Mac background, whatever. So started that company at your server many moons ago.
Oh, cool!
And and then ultimately we, if I fast forward, I grew that to about 6 people in the area locally. And the main reason for that growth, this is how I circle back to the audience so that they don't hate me, is we actually did start taking on Windows clients. And we did start maturing our offering, and it didn't mean that we didn't stop focusing on Mac. Today, Campfire is very much Mac centric, but just how the industry grows, we're about 60-40 Mac to PC split across our customer base, which is really interesting. But it gives us a niche, and it's a really required niche of nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it well. Nobody's doing it properly. Nobody knows how to do it. And I obviously generalize on that. But the magic sauce there is like, well, no, we know how to do it. And we, in fact, can do it very well. And we're happy to do it. We actually enjoy doing it. The Mac board and the Apple, all that stuff that comes along with it, right? And the complexities of it, right? So that's sort of our journey. But then Campfire was born last year from 3 separate businesses that had no effective affiliation from each other across 3 separate geographical provinces in Canada. So Calgary, Winnipeg, and Ontario, I say, but Burlington area or the Toronto area are the 3 sort of major metropolis hubs. And here we are, 20 some odd sized person company across 3 provinces. So basically nationally, when you look at what Canada's geography is, we don't have any boots on the ground, say in Vancouver or Montreal, which would be the 2 other major cities in the country. But that's fine. We'll get there, maybe, right? We'll see. And here we are. So things got crazy really fast, if I can give you sort of that origin story. And
absolutely.
go from a 6-person shop where the buck always stopped with me, or I was like the tech lead, or I was the project lead, or I was the guy who wore 19 hats. I've now fallen on the business development side of things.
Nice.
And that just naturally worked with me in terms of who I am as an individual. I think the reason, I guess I can answer one question that you didn't even ask, which is like, well, why are we even talking? And it's because I don't have traditional marketing or sales training by any means. I've just done this for 20 years naturally, and it just sort of came to me, and I could be doing it wrong, but it's worked. So I guess not, you know?
Yep.
And so that's where it just naturally sort of bled into being able to take this on as a challenge of going, okay, well, I'm in a position in my career where I've done tech for 20 years. I'm exceptionally talented on the tech side, not the smartest guy, but I know what I'm doing. And now I can go sell what we do, and I believe in it. We won't sell something we don't believe in, so I can sell that all day. That's easy, right? I'm not selling snake oil. I'm selling proper, trusted, tested, vetted solutions, which is the whole damn point of what we do as a business.
Yep.
That was a long-winded answer to your very simple question, I think. But
no, that was great, man. And you know, you said a couple things. It's like you don't know if it's right, but it's working. Like if it's working, it's right for sure. I've seen so many MSPs do so many different cool things in their business development, which I think is a better word than marketing and sales. It's like at the end of the day, we are trying to develop a business. And it's like so many weird ways of getting to success. And like, you know, MSP Camp, we have a general framework, but I see MSPs veering off it completely and seeing success. It's like awesome, perfect, fantastic, whatever works, you know, and whatever people enjoy doing. So I love that. That's amazing. So I want to talk, I'm really interested in getting in your own process of business development, but I also want to talk about that merger a little bit, because that's very interesting, obviously, to me and the listeners and stuff. So it was just 3 separate MSPs, and you guys just kind of knew each other and started talking it out, and then started going, hey, we should just like combine, because going from 6 to 20, that's a big number. And it's like, okay, how do we do this? You know, how did you
there was a lot of how do we do this? There was a lot of that. It fundamentally boiled down to the 3 of us being receptive to the idea. Step 1. We did know each other through like a Mac admins community, and just years of, it's a smaller sort of industry. We know each other. We've known each other for a lot. And it all sort of fruition from me and one of the 2 partners just kind of chit-chatting almost daily about, hey, how do you do this? What solution are you using for this? And just really bouncing all operational ideas on each other. And what we found in some crazy entanglement way, we make that joke, is that we're quantum entangled, because almost every single time our answer was the same. We never consulted each other in advance of that decision. It was like I made the same decisions he made organically alone. That's weird. Then we started looking at each other's sort of books a little bit. So the kimonos started opening up a bit, just like book of business and stuff like that, like profit margins and just general sort of getting a litmus test. And we discovered, if you can believe it, that our books were within a couple $1,000s of each other on almost every line item. It was the most incredible, crazy, like, what the hell are we doing this separately for?
Yeah.
Like, let's share the knowledge. Let's share this. Let's do this together. And it ultimately boiled down to, you know, not having a proper vacation in 20 years is a really long time. I've got 3 young kids. I've got a wife who would love to travel, but I always travel on a stress point, right?
Yeah.
You're always worried about, okay, who's going to call me with a fire or whatever. So I wanted to position myself for the next. I'm still pretty young, but I've got enough 8 years in my under my belt, if I will, where I need to make a decision on what do I do for the next 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I don't want to necessarily work for 20 more years, but what's the plan, right? Let's build it. Let's figure that out. And that's what we did. We sat down, we got together, we hammered it out, countless hours hammering it out, countless flights between the cities to each other just so that we could be in the same room, and really just whiteboarding it. And effectively just saying, all right, let's go. I think the most important piece of that puzzle, because it won't be without challenges if anybody's going down that road of like, let's try and merge or whatever. Because it does come with challenges, especially I think operationally, it's incredibly difficult. And I'll tell you why in a moment. We may have made mistakes doing some things, but fundamentally, we have to be accepting of you're no longer the singular dictator.
Yeah.
Right? You are not just the only boss. The buck doesn't singularly stop with you. As long as you can wrap your brain around that piece and understand that there is a bigger picture here, there's a bigger goal. And I don't mean bigger in terms of like monetary bigger. I just mean it's a bigger vision. You have to believe that this vision is bigger than one individual. And you know that technology has gotten incredibly more complex over the last, I don't know, let's just say 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's gotten like logarithmic, where the stuff that we worry about today is not even remotely the stuff that we worried about 10 years ago. Right? It was a completely different landscape.
Yep.
So with that all being said, we made that jump, and here we are. Right?
Nice.
It's a wild ride. Right? I mean, we're 7-8 months in, and we're better for it. The first few months were just wow. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Right? Because you've got 3 separate PSAs, you've got 3 separate Ninja instances, you've got 3 separate other instances of every tool set almost. Right? Now you got to put it all together. And that's hard.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 3 separate books, right? Which I mean, you're not going to merge the books, but invoices got to go out on month day 1. Are we going to get paid? Because you got to get paid, right? You got payroll now to worry about.
Yeah.
Well, I always did, right? But you got to do it differently. Then you got to update all the clients and be like, hey, so now you're paying us here.
Yeah.
And that, you know, there was so much that we had to do that I'm happy to say that we did do it. But you better pull up your overalls, man, because there's some work to be done, right? That was tough. It was tough.
And that's what I love about the entrepreneurial mindset. I mean, I just love anybody that works hard, their mindset, but specifically on the entrepreneurial mindset, it's like we have these big ideas, and it's like it's not going to happen unless we have a big vision and a shitload of work. Like when I look at MSP Camp, I was working at All Tech, trying to build this other company, trying to close deals, trying to keep people happy, trying to grow big enough to where I can split off. Like all these things, I look back, I'm like, how did that happen? And like even now, I'm like, the goal that I set for the end of 2024, it's now like, no, we need to double it, right? Because it's just like we just got to keep pushing. And like you had this massive overcoming of like 3 different companies, all these different staff, all the different books, all these different things, and you're like, the only way it's going to get done is if we get it done, and you just push through. I do want to talk about Campfire. One, obviously love the name, but you know, why did you settle on that, and why did you decide to kind of themify a little bit with this new entity?
Yeah. So one of the partners had that name.
Okay.
He was brilliant enough that he did this branding thing back when he did it years ago, and it was Campfire like Technology Group or something. We just wanted to kind of shorten that to be like business as Campfire, like. And the whole mantra is kind of similar to MSP Camp, right? It's like I want people to feel warm. I want people to be. I want this community aspect of it. We're not necessarily driven by the next sale. We're driven by relationships. And you know, we're still refining what our core values are, but our core values fundamentally are to be human, to be nice, to put empathy into our daily lives of everybody across the board, because the customers are really just trying to get their job done. Right? Like, we have to remember that as technicians. We're always the smart people in the room, we like to think. That's the wrong way to look at it. We're not the smart people in the room. We're the property managers of an environment of a customer who's probably running potentially a much bigger business than you are. You're just the one there to janitorially deal with all of the property stuff and the maintenance and the this and the proactiveness. And, you know, we can call ourselves the fire department. Whatever it is that we do, and all of it that we do, which is like so broad, right? We have to do it with the customer in mind. So Campfire really naturally sort of bled into that. And instead of us going through a whole rebranding, renaming thing, we're like, we just kind of like it. Let's just do that. And let me tell you, that was confusing as all hell, because everybody thought he bought us and all this sort of, nobody bought anybody, right? We didn't do that. We naturally put 3 of us together, and the math works. If anybody can't do that math, right? And here we are, right? There's just 3 of us now, and we all have our roles. We try not to overstep on each other. We do our best to work together, because we all came from the same place. That was really hard, right? Like operationally, we could all do it.
Yeah.
You know, but one guy was better at doing one of the partners was better at doing the finance admin side, the HR side. That's not necessarily maybe what he wanted to do, but we knew that he would fit that role best. The other partner, operational genius, we believe. You know, that's like we believe that. It's not just like false beliefs. It's like he's proven it, right? And then you got me, the guy who likes to golf. So we made a joke at the beginning going, well, if you like to golf, you should do sales. Ha, ha, ha. And then here I am, you know, in the end. So that was sort of like the funny thing. I have yet to take a customer out golfing because there's no damn time. But the point is that that's the face of that initial contact. The customer can be mine. That's fine. I can handle that. Because I will take what I said earlier, which is I'm not selling you. I never sell somebody something. I simply consult with them. This is what I've seen. This is how I've seen it work. Can we do this for you? This is why we wanted to do this for you. And you either like that message or you don't. And if you don't, that's perfectly okay. I'll talk to you in 6 months. I'll talk to you in a year. Maybe you'll come to that realization, right? I don't need to forcefully sell anybody. There's more than, I think the most important thing I could say is there's always another company looking for IT services. Always. It'll never dry up. It's impossible. So don't worry about the one that you lost. It's fine. You know, it's like the old silly analogy of like you go to the bar as a single male, you're trying to find a mate, you're trying to find a wife or a girlfriend or whatever. And it's like, well, you try 20 times, nobody might respond. Okay. Change up your strategy a little bit, right? Maybe you'll get that one. You only need one, right? Like, I mean, if you have more than one wife, I guess you're doing well in some cultures, but you know, like the point is that you probably only just need the one in that weird little silly analogy, because you're not going to succeed every single time you go out there and try to, right? That's okay.
Yeah, one way I try to make that really specific for people is like, if you have your dream 100, you have a list of 100 people. There's 3 people like right now on that list that are looking for IT, and then there's like there's obviously the different quadrants of people interested or not, but like 3 people right now on that list of just 100 people that you're looking at in your Excel spreadsheet need you right now. Like I try to make it very specific like that, because it's like, look, I know that seems, overwhelming. Like, oh, I got to contact these people, or I got to market to them, or I got to sell them, or whatever. But it's like, yeah, but there's 3 people right now that need your help. And like you said earlier, like, we're not selling snake oil. We are literally selling their life is easier. They're more secure. Their business can flourish. Like, that's why I was very passionate about what I was, marketing. Because I'm like, I know this is going to help. So I don't care if you don't respond to me, or I don't care if like whatever. I'm going to hold a lunch and learn to try and teach you. I'm going to do these things because it's gold and it's truly going to help. So I love that you have that perspective. And obviously with the name Campfire, and on your website, it's generally a really good theme. I'm just a huge fan of branding. I'm a huge fan of it. I think in general, no matter what business, B2B, B2C, whatever, when you have a brand, when you have a theme, it sticks out over all the other MSPs. It sticks out over all the other type of companies in the industry. And it's time and time again. That's the case. I mean, that's why people like use mascots. I always use the Geico example. Geico wouldn't be what it is today without the gecko, right? Like those things that stick in our minds, they have a massive impact on our overall reach. So you mentioned the 3, core competencies of the team. So tell me a little bit. Why did you end up as the business development person? How is it going? What seems to be working? What's not working? Let's get into your kind of processes that.
Yeah, so this is where sort of MSP Camp comes in, because I've been a part of or been in indirectly involved in some other types of platforms like yours, for example, right? I won't mention names, but I've dabbled in it. I've read some books and this and that. But again, like I did mention, that sales and marketing are not I didn't go to school for that, right? I didn't go to school for that. So it's I have to have modesty when it comes to my abilities of understanding what are the best methods. And I think more so on the marketing side than on the sales side. The sales side, put me in a room with people who are decision makers, and I can talk my way through my message.
Yep.
Whether or not they sign it is a different problem, right? But I can get my message across, and I can get that articulately to people, and they'll understand me. That I can do. And I can do that with technical knowledge as my foundation, right? Because I'm not just talking nonsense. I'm talking true understanding of the tech.
Yep.
That's important. That's key. And that's so rare to find that, there's salespeople and then there's technical people who can sell. Yep. That's an interesting skill set that if anybody's finding somebody like that on their team, keep them if they're good, right? That's a gem. Yep. I don't know if I'll find that person in the future, right? Because I don't want to always be the only one doing this. Right? I'm a team of one in terms of sales, and that will become effectively unmanageable eventually, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But that's a problem down the road. We'll worry about that one later.
Yep.
What is my process? We don't even have one yet. That's part of the point. Is I don't have a proper process. I'm in the middle of what CRM should I be using, and we're making it work with our PSA and a little bit of Excel and dabbling in the various CRMs that exist. But again, I look at them and I'm being extremely technical. I hate them. Like they don't mesh with my brain, right? So it's this battle, and I hope I'm resonating with somebody. Somebody's nodding their head somewhere. I'm like, yeah, man, exactly. Like CRMs suck. Yeah, they do. I don't like any of them. None of them have impressed me, and they create more work for me. And it's like, that's not what I want. I don't want more work. I like automating things. I like making things simple. I like making things straightforward, right? So it's a bit of a battle. To build on the story, we have not engaged in net new business since we merged at all. We have done zero marketing other than, a little bit of social, a little bit of blog posting, a little bit of just kind of contact referral type stuff. Like people know we exist, I would assume, at least the ones that care to know. But we haven't needed to push heavily on the marketing side. Again, reason why I'm interested in you guys is to go, okay, well, how can you guys help me when I'm ready to go down that path?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be prepped in advance of needing to.
Yeah.
Part of why I'm sitting here with you. And we've had a pretty healthy pipeline organically. So what we did with the merger, our biggest challenge is we didn't have the ability to take on net new clients and onboard them properly. It was a big problem for us that we've started to now solve. And just in the last month, I think we've closed 5 or 6 deals organically with net new clients. And I just started this month. Maybe it's a lucky month. I don't know. But it was like, all right, let's open the floodgates. Let's see what would happen if I did start doing it. Yeah. And then you're like, oh crap. Right. Wow. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, wild roller coaster. But in terms of process, it really boils down to just understanding what the customer is looking for, and then nipping it in the bud fast if it's not a fit. Just don't waste time. All right. Sorry, Absolutely. You're not a fit. You're not big enough. You're not this. You're not that. You don't even meet our minimums. You can pay our minimums if you want, but we're not going down just because you're a 2-person shop. I'm not doing it. Yep. So we've really, because we've been in business so long individually, we refined that. Like, what are we selling? What is our thing? What is our package? And we're even taking a lot of, maybe 90% of my days is talking to our current customers who have old, out of date contracts. Like, I worked with you for 10 years and I left the pricing as it is because you're a nice guy or whatever. Targeting them. That's my target. That's my funnel for now. Because I need to shore up everybody, right? And
that's great.
Really busy. Yeah, it's you could find so much more efficiency just within your own client base, I feel.
Oh my God, so much opportunity.
When you're not even dealing with net new, just deal internally. There's money there. Every year, your packages are getting updated, right? Probably. Yeah. So the last year at
Alltech, we added almost as much MRR from our current client base as net new. Like we added like $1 million that year, and half of it was like current client updates, and like they were happy to pay. So it's like, yeah, we love you guys.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had to get out of my own head when we were doing the price increase for legacy customers and making everybody do MDR and all these things that seriously added our MRR and seriously put our clients in a better spot. I'm like, wow, I should not have waited as long as I did. When you say organically, you got those, 4 or 5 clients this month organically. Can you elaborate, like mostly like just client referrals from friends, website?
Yeah, weird. Because we're in 3 separate geographic provinces, we're getting leads from all 3, which are separate markets, right?
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out. But like, one will be like a word of mouth referral, or like an existing customer be like, hey, talk to Campfire. They help us. That happens a lot, which is amazing. That's the biggest compliment anybody can ever give you, right?
Yeah. Totally.
We take that pretty darn seriously. We get some referrals like Apple, because we're part of the Apple Consultants Network.
Nice.
There's a whole thing there that helps from time to time. More misses than hits, because it's a fit thing, right? Like, is that customer the right fit for us as well as for them? We're not gonna take you on if it just doesn't make any sense on both sides, right? Again, we don't sell just for money. We want to be partners with these companies. You said something really important there, is like, you've upgraded their legacy contracts and whatnots. And it's okay. The net result is more money, hopefully, if you're profitable, but the net result is actually better service for that customer and better protection for that customer, right? In the last 2 years, how many insurance questionnaires have you filled out?
Oh, God.
Not you specifically, but across the MSP space, there's probably everybody a million times. Like every week, it's like, whenever, I don't know, when is insurance renewal period for everybody? It's like there's this era in the year where it just becomes this crazy, like every day there's 5 of them. But then you can use that questionnaire. A questionnaire is your sales guide. Make sure that those check boxes are checked for your customers. If they're not, go talk to your customer. That's an upgrade.
Totally.
It's the easiest thing on the planet. And then you can just explain it to them. Look, insurance is going to ask you for this. Can we just do it for you? Here's what it costs. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I've heard people say they charge for doing those questionnaires. I'm like, this is the greatest upsell opportunity of all time. I was like, all the things you've been preaching to your clients, now they have this thing. Yeah, let's fill it out for them for free, right? I mean, it's fine if someone wants to charge, but I'm like, you're going to make all of your money back and then some on a recurring basis, and your client's going to be a better spot if you just show them, hey, remember all that stuff I've been talking about? It's right, like they're all right here. Like we got to start your penetration testing. Like we got to get MDR in place. Like we got to do these things. And they go, 99% of the time they go, oh, okay, which is a little annoying to me, because I feel like we do such a good job of communicating to current clients, and sometimes it does take that catalyst of the insurance questionnaire, but at the end of the day, it works. So like, it's definitely helped to move the needle a lot.
Yeah, you always have to remember, like, people are busy, right? They don't remember everything we tell them. There's way too much information from us. We tend to overcomplicate the simple stuff, myself included. I'm guilty of that, right? But if you break it down and be like, the funny joke in our little world is, I'll always ask an interviewee, whether or not they know it or not is irrelevant. It's how they respond. I ask them, I go, how does DNS work? How would you explain DNS to your mother? Assuming the mother is not technically in the tech industry or something like that. Go ahead, just explain it to me. And then if they go off on this long-winded journey of subnetting and all this sort of stuff, you're like, whoa, that's, whoa, bud, right? Keep it simple.
One thing you said on that is having a technical background and knowing how to sell. I want everyone to just kind of like revel in that for a minute, because a lot of listeners, there's marketing people, there's salespeople, but most of them are MSP owners, and they think they don't know how to sell. And I always tell them, like I'm like you, I never really took sales classes or whatever, and I've closed lots and lots and lots of deals and added a ton of MRR, and it's like, there's no sales trickery needed. Like our confidence in knowing what we're providing, and when we show up and we're the consultant, I love that you use that, because it's true. It's like, if you act like you're on the leadership team of that company when you're meeting with them, you're not trying to sell them. You're trying to be an advisor to what their business is, where it needs to go, and how we can connect the dots with technology. That's always the approach I took. And for any salespeople listening that think you don't need to know the service, like, you absolutely do. You don't need to understand subnets and IP addresses and all that, but understand, like, any salesperson in any role that succeeds knows their product like the back of their hand. In any industry, and there's no exception in the MSP industry, we have to understand everything we provide to our clients and be able to, properly communicate that like they're five, but not like you're demeaning them, but you can help them understand in a way that they go, okay, I can't not have this human on my team. And it only costs me $3,000 a month to have this human on my team. Easy peasy, right? Like, so I'm just so glad you mentioned that aspect to it. You kind of mentioned, how MSP Camp came in. It sounds like right now you're kind of prepping potentially for battle, later this year, next year. How are you currently using MSP Camp, if at all? And what are your plans for using MSP Camp? Really interested in how your vision for how we can help you, and what that looks like.
Yeah, my hope is that, you got this whole new website now. That's cool. So I've sort of, it's funny, like we're the worst customers to ourselves is like, I haven't had a ton of time to dive into the platform either. I've spent time in it, and I've joined the Grow group because I believe that being an island is unhealthy anyway.
Yep.
And being in an echo chamber is extremely unhealthy. Social media has proven that, I think, hopefully, to everybody.
Yes.
So having, I'm not necessarily, I may speak like I sound like I know what I'm talking about or like I'm right, but that's not true. It may sound that way, but I do believe that there is room for improvement on everything I've said, and it can be battled and combated and rebutted. And, I'm a terrible debater and all these sorts of things. But I've got my confidence factor of, I think I know what I'm doing, but I will always double check it. And I will always like to cross-reference it. And I like to hear the difference of opinion. So Grow group, or a peer group, if you will, is a healthy way to do that, because you're going to get bodies from different areas. Canada and America, as similar as we are in so many ways, we're exceptionally different, especially dependent on where in the countries you are. America itself is vastly different depending on what state you're from, right? It's actually incredibly interesting. Because like literally state line over, and it's like a whole different breed of people, and you're like, whoa, that's fascinating. So the benefits of that are, I hope, will prove to be extremely fruitful. If anything, if the smallest thing I get is making a couple contacts of people in a similar industry, this is where the Apple community really stepped up and we worked together. I've got people who are in my region who we would technically be considered competitors because we do similar work in a similar fashion. But yet we're going out for beers together because we'd rather collab than not. And that is incredibly important to me because, yes, we all compete. Yes, we're all in business together, but we can do it civilly and we can do it very friendly. One of the most important things I always tell every customer is, look, if you want to divorce us, if you want to get rid of us for whatever reason, which thankfully is rare, but will always happen, no problem. Let me help you do that. Because if things go bad over there, you might want to come back to your old girlfriend, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, and no problem, because our prices will be up by then. So great. As long as we still liked working with you and there was a good relationship there in general, and you just didn't see the value in what we were doing because maybe we didn't show you that value properly. You just kind of have to go check the greener grass. That can happen. If you burn the bridge, though, they can never, ever come back. So we try not to do that.
We have that exact same process, and the number of times over 10 years that a client has come back is like insane. It's insanely high. Like I'm like probably much higher than any other MSP I can even think of. Like, and I talked to a lot of MSPs. It's just like we're so helpful on offboarding. We're so like I keep in contact with them. Like it's just like, hey, no worries. Like it's a business decision. We're not butthurt. Like we get it. You make some changes. It's all good. And the number of times that they come back, it's so high. Like it is so high. It's great.
I think a lot of that stems to her from a lot of us MSPs who started these businesses were always just technical people. And it's kind of funny, the parallelisms of like, we're not necessarily business people, right? We're all trying to be. Lord knows I'm not great at a whole bunch of areas of running a business. Like me and HR are just not a good place. Like, not that I don't believe in all good HR practices. I absolutely do, but that's just not my thing. I come from a different cut, right? Where, work hard. We're European blood. Like, let's go. Let's crush this. Let's figure this out. Let's work on this together.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have proper things in place, right? That's what I've learned over the years. The problem is that when the customer leaves you, it's an ego hit, right? I think I've had instances where the exiting MSP went really sour, really ugly with us even, and it's like, it's not my fault, dude. Like, I didn't do this to you. You did it to yourself, and if sooner you accept that, the sooner we'll just move on and get this done. But it's important to remind yourself, if you lose a customer, that it's not personal.
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't do a good enough job. Ask yourself, why not?
Mm-hmm.
People won't leave you if you're good. They just won't, because nobody wants to go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They just won't.
Yeah.
It's too sticky. It's too annoying. It's too much frustration. So what did you do wrong? I just had a call yesterday with a customer where I honest to goodness thought that they were going to just call us and be like, we're out. We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Turn that call completely around, because before he even said anything, I said, everything you're about to tell me about how we screwed up, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Every single thing. Because we did our analysis on our end to understand why something happened. And mistakes will always be made. It's impossible to eliminate those mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if a customer is going to leave you because of a mistake, either it's a chronic mistake, it's a repetitive mistake, or maybe you're too expensive, they don't see the value in it, or there's just a relationship. That can happen, but you can own it. And if you own the mistake, that is so important. Now, owning the mistake and just like whatevering it after is bad, right? Like, you have to own it and then fix it and then improve upon it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We turned it around. I was like, okay, great. Let's hammer this out now. We understand what we did wrong. Here's why it happened. Here's what we were trying to do. And he got it. He understood. He's like, I get it. That's cool. Let's move forward now. Can we stop making these mistakes, though, Zvon? I was like, yeah, we want to too, because we don't want to do this either.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I love that, man. I love this whole process. Love the themification. Love that you're committing to business development. It's also a lot more fun. Like, it's just fun. I mean, we have our own anxiety of like when we don't get a closed deal that month. Like, that's where where it's like, oh shit. Like, I remember literally it's this unfortunate thing of being in sales. Like, I closed this big deal, like our biggest deal ever into 2022, and I was like super high for like 2 days, right? I was like so stoked about it for like 2 days, and then boom, my pipeline's dry. I got to keep going. Got to get more people, right? It's like, just that's our new stress. Now that you're in the business development role mainly, it's like, that's it. But fortunately, other than some client complaints, you now have other people that can help burden the buck. So that's good. Hopefully it ends up being a really good win for you. Super stoked to have you in a grow group. I already know which one I'm going to put you in. I'm super stoked about it, actually, because one of the guys, Todd, he's a Mac consultant too, and he's obsessed. He's so good. Like, he's passionate about it. It makes me be like, oh my God, this is great. Like, we should totally do Macs. Like, it's like, he's so passionate about it. He's like, all the things you could do, like, autopilot, but Mac, like all the, and the reality is, as more people that get into the workforce, I do think Macs are only going to become more prevalent. They're not going to become less prevalent.
Well,
so,
I mean, if you haven't paid attention to that, you're missing it. Like, Apple sells a lot of computers, and it's not, man. I can't tell you how many times I hear, well, that's just for design companies. That's just for design companies. That you have to be in branding to use a Mac. It's like, dude, blue hammer, red hammer, just use the fucking hammer. Pardon my language, right?
Oh, no worries.
It's like, it's a hammer, guys. It's a device that gets the job done. Can you send email from it? Yes. Can you do what you're supposed to do from it? Yes. Okay, so then what exactly is the problem? Right? And what's interesting about that is that our customers are in every single vertical. You name it. From orthodontists to lawyers to, you name it. Right? Like, they're all there. So it's just a matter of which hammer are you using today or for your life. Like, I've used a Mac for 20 years. I have a PC here for gaming. That's about it. When I have a minute to game.
Yeah.
And that took me forever to even build, because I would just game on my Mac. It was fine. It was enough for me personally. No, it was not a great gaming machine. I don't need anybody to yell at me about that. But it doesn't matter. Use the tool that works for you. Now, our job, and this is why a lot of techs struggle with it, is because it puts a pain point on processes at an MSP level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you take on Max but don't have the right tools in place or the right staff in place or the right understanding in place, yeah, you're going to hate managing them. Of course you are. It's different. Pretty sure that was a slogan at one point. So it's different. Do it differently. Take care of it differently. No, you don't want to necessarily put your Max in Intune just because.
Yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily how you want to do it. That might not be the best tool for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. We're going through a lot of that ourselves. Like anytime we're starting to develop these other services, and it's not like I'm putting the same team on agency services. Like I'm hiring a whole new team. We're getting all new SOPs. Like it's completely different. It's a big undertaking. And, I think a lot of times I remember at Alltech, which I love Alltech. I'm not talking shit on Alltech, but it was like, we wanted to start rolling out this new service. And it's like, okay, well, who's going to manage it? Who's going to own it? How are we going to market it? Like, if we're going to do this like major service change, or we're going to, start rolling out this major difference, like penetration testing or whatever, it's like, okay, well, who's going to own it? What are the SOPs? We can't, like we got to really, because once you have that, then it's fairly easy to market and sell it. Like we got to be able to develop it properly and roll it out.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, right? Because you have to put in the capital up front.
Yes.
Build that out. And that's hard. That's really, really hard.
We're spending currently at MSP Camp like $20,000 a month in developing new services that aren't making a dime. And like that hurts every month to see that. But it's like, I know where the members are asking for, like I know what they're asking for, and I know how I want to build it to where I roll it out and our reputation doesn't take a hit, it takes a boost. So I was like, yeah, it's going to take a lot of time and effort and money, and we'll roll it out if it's good enough, and if not, we won't roll it out. Like that's really my mindset with it, and I feel like our mindset has to be. So coming up on the end here, Zvon, I kind of just wanted to see, is there, I love what you're doing. Love the stories that you've told today. This has been super helpful. Like, I love your perspective on sales for sure. And, maybe in a year from now, we can also get you back on to see what you've done with the grow groups, how you've liked them, what are you doing with MSP Camp, how much this helped, all that good stuff. Do you have any other advice maybe you'd like to share to, any of the listeners today on business development or just in general? Anything you've learned recently?
No authoritative figure. Let's just make that very clear. You gotta, you gotta go with your gut. You gotta trust. You gotta trust in your team. Where we are today versus where we were 7 months ago, or where I was even pre-merger, are two completely different landscapes in terms of the complexities, the challenges, and the opportunities. One of the biggest things I think we did, or I ultimately decided, we had an opportunity to put in a RFP submission. We're not big on RFPs like anybody is, right? They're kind of a pain, but we understand why they exist in the world and all that. And sometimes we'll go in and put in our bid or whatever. But we had an opportunity come up that would have been like one of those, those unicorn clients, right? Like would have been amazing. Right up our alley in terms of what we're capable of. It wasn't outside of the scope of what we were capable of. But we had to sit back and go, we are not operationally ready right now. And that was a big decision, because this could have helped launch us a little more, because you get a whole bunch of monthly recurring, right? But it also could have tarnished us if we did it wrong.
Yeah.
And at the time, and this was, I 1,000,000% believe this was the right decision, which was email them back. We're not interested because we can't do this now because, and again, it's owning it. Like, when did humans stop being humans, right? Like, when did we stop taking ownership? And that's the ownership piece is so big that, like, we do these Zoom things now all the time. We're all just sitting in our basements, and it's so easy to be disconnected from the human. Myself included, right? Like I suffer with this all the time. I've worked from home for 20 years. I've never had an office. You can't lose the human element, but I also don't want to be driving to every meeting, especially in Ontario, where I would lose my whole day for one hour, on site, right?
Yep.
So it's so important to understand what your limitations are and understand that everybody is on we're all on a different hike, and we're all at a different spot within our hike.
Yeah.
Right. So you're trying to get somewhere. We all know we're all trying to get somewhere, whatever that somewhere is. Define it if you don't, right? Like that's important. Like, what is my goal? Like, I have a goal for the end of the year. So by December 31st, 2024, my sales goal is increase MRR. Don't care how, by 50 grand.
Nice.
That's just a number I threw out. I'm like, I think that's reasonable.
Love it.
Is it small? No. Is it too big? I don't think so. Right? As soon as I set that goal, I closed another 12,000 in MRR within a week.
Amazing. It's amazing how that happens.
Is that too low now? And I don't know if it is, because I actually have no thing to like predispose this decision on. But I'm like, screw it. Well, let's see what happens.
Yep.
Right. And the reason that is because we made some hires internally. We did some math internally, and we said, okay, well, we put in these bodies, and we said, in order for us to get sort of a return on investment on these particular bodies that we hired, we need X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Not because we're not profitable, but because we believe that the math makes sense here. This is how this math makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, let's do $500,000 more in MRR a year, or whatever
Yep.
that math works out to be, 600, whatever it is. I'm not the math guy, but you get my point.
Yeah.
So that's our goal. What's your goal, right? Set one. If you don't meet it, it's okay. Like, you're fine. It's just money.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? That's my advice: is take on the clients that you can, and be, what's the word? Be introspective, I guess, that there are clients that you're not ready for, potentially. And that was exactly what happened to us. Unicorn client, right up our alley, but we were not operationally ready for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we set ourselves up for success for that when we know there are people come back in 2 years or so? So let's get ready for that.
Yep.
Right? How are we going to prepare ourselves for those types of clients that we want to get? Okay. Is it ISO certification? Is it SOC 2 certification? Is it this certification? What do we got to do? Let's get her done.
Yeah.
That's the only real like exiting advice I can give is look inside and figure it out and just make a goal. Do it. Execute. Go. No complaining. No excuses. No more bullshit. Right?
Totally.
There's always business out there. Nobody's out to get you.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Stay positive. Positive thinking is so incredibly, amazingly important that if you don't stay positive, it's so easy to get just sucked down that drain. Right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. That's one of the almost, I would say like 80% of my vision for the grow groups is big goals. Like you'll see it when you get in there. It's the activity tracker, and it's like every month we say, okay, what did we want to do previously, and then what are we gonna do next? Like just everyone gets one thing, and then we have the what are we gonna do this quarter? What's a big quarterly rock, and then what's a big annual goal?
Yep.
And like every quarter, I had $10,000 a month MRR. That was my goal. It was like every single quarter, I'm going to get $10,000 a month. And almost every single quarter, I hit it or exceeded it, because it's like, yeah, it's a big goal, right? You got to get at least, probably around 3-4 clients every single quarter. And it's just when you have that and it's written somewhere and it's there and you have the accountability that I'm going to meet with Tom, or I'm going to meet with my grow group or whatever, you just start to realize like, I got to make this shit happen. Like there's not like, no, the goal was too big. Again, it was like that positive thinking, the no excuses. Like, no, that goal is very reasonable. Why am I not hitting the goal?
Right.
Well, I'm not getting enough leads right now. Why not? Like it all just, I loved having a big ass goal that's right there and then working my way back. And then the activity that just filled it up to get there. Like right now with MSP Camp, I'm a big proponent of the entrepreneur operating system. And we did our vision traction organizer 3 weeks ago. I remember at Alltech when we did it, we said, okay, we were like 1 million or something. And I was like, I want to be 5 million in 5 years. And everyone looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? Like it's been 15 years. We're only at 1 million. How are we going to get 5X that in a third of the time? I said, because we're going to set a big ass goal and we're going to find the fucking way to get there, period.
Right.
And sure enough, when I left, we were just about to be 5 million, which was just over 5 years later. And now with MSP Camp, we laid it out, and I was looking at our current trajectory, and I was looking about these new services, all the investments we're making, our current, all the different things. And I was like, we're going to be 5 million in 3 years. And like me and Steven both looked at it. Steven threw the number out, which I freaking love. Like, I know I'm rubbing off on him when he's the one throwing the big numbers out there. It made me very proud. And I look at him like, yeah, no, that's totally doable. Like, that's like 280 net new a day. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And we're adding services that are, some are $2,000 a month. It's like, okay, you get one of those. You don't need a member for 10 days, but we're absolutely going to be adding members in those 10 days. I'm like, yeah, we can hit 5 million in 3 years. It's like, for sure we can. And now that I have that number, it's the amount of drive and the accountability that we're going to keep looking at this every quarter. Where are we at? Are we on track or off track? If we're off track, we're going to do a lot of shit to get back on track. Like, I just love that was your perspective. And that's your current perspective, because like you said, you set that big ass goal and then you close 12K MRR. There's this amazing thing that happens when it's like, okay, our mindset's there. The activity is going to follow.
Yeah. And that's just it, right? It's like, you gotta, I'm terrible at like working out, right? Like I don't work out. So the joke with me is that my workouts are walking with my bag at golf. That's my workout. My wife doesn't agree with that, but that's fine. But if you don't practice something, if you don't have a mindset, you'll never, like, there's nothing to achieve. Like, what are you striving for? Yeah. My striving for, like my side striving for, if I stay off topic for a second, is I want to shoot a certain score at golf.
Yeah.
Right. Like breaking 80 is my goal, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. I've broken 100. Got it. Broke 90. Got it. Not every day. There's days, but breaking 80 now is my true side hobby project, passion project. But guess what? I got 3 kids, 5 and under. I'm busy. I don't got a lot of time to practice. Right? There's not a lot of time to practice. But I'll tell you right now that I'm breaking 80. Damn it! It may not be this year. It very well may not be this year, and that I'm okay with. But it's the same mindset in business, right?
Yes.
If the business mindset is, well, we're going to double our revenue, right? We're going to have what's it called? A net profit of 20%, right? An EBITDA or whatever of 20%, right? Well, that's best in class. That's what we want to be. That's who we want to be. So how do we get there? That's exactly, and the EOS system is pretty cool. Our leadership team uses it as well. Just to keep us on track. Otherwise, we could talk for 17 hours straight and get nowhere, right? But
exactly. Yeah.
The magic sauce there is to just set some form of achievable thing you can reach for. Right? Yep. If you got nothing to reach for, then you're not going to reach.
Yep.
Totally
agree.
So let's go. Let's double our revenue in 5 years. You said let's 1 to 5 it. We're one of the reasons why I resonated with you guys, I started listening to the podcast, and I was like, oh, wow, these guys sound like us right now. Like, this is kind of cool.
Cool.
Right? We're about the same size. We got the same sort of mantra-ish, right? I mean, MSP Camp, we were Campfire. That was pretty funny to me, too. I was like, let me listen to these guys. And your voice is the silky, soothing voice that I hear sometimes when I go to a client on Thursday. And, I enjoy it because there's things to be learned.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to continue that learning. And that's the magic sauce behind this, is just listening to somebody else who's already lived a little bit of it, and is on that path, on that trajectory with us. And I guess I could throw in a little tidbit there, is like, well, maybe you're a small MSP and you're like, I just got to get started. I don't know where to start. These guys are talking about 1 million, 5 million, like, whoa, Zvon and Taher, they're like, we're 500 grand. Okay.
Yep.
So was I.
Yeah.
So was I 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
I just kept breaking my records. I just kept doing what I'm doing. So what means you can't be on that? We're on a different rally point on our hikes, right? There's MSPs doing $100 million.
Yeah.
I don't relate to them. Yes, I do. Everything that they learned and how to do, it just means that they're more mature operationally.
Yeah.
And they sold the hell out of things, or maybe they did a bunch of M&As, or maybe they had VC funding or whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's a million ways you can get to 100 million. I don't know if I want a $100 million business. That's a little bit too stressful for me. But it really boils down to, what is your goal? Where do you want to get? Like, before we partnered, this is important actually. Before we partnered, we sat down, we said, what's our goal?
Mm-hmm.
Operative word being our goal. What are we agreeing to together?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to get this business to 10 million, 20 million, 50 million? What is your goal? What's your exit strategy? When do you want to exit? How do you want to exit? Do we want to exit?
Mm-hmm.
All of these things were discussed.
Yeah.
And we defined it and we wrote it down and we made it a thing. So now we have an understanding together of
Yep.
these are the rules. These are the rules of engagement for us. This is how we're going to approach this. Now the three of us got to go execute it. So now there's that reachable goal, right?
Yeah.
I won't share what those internals are, but that has to be figured out. I never had that solo.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it. I wasn't like, I'm going to grow this business to whatever. I grew it to 1 million at your server. And I was like, yeah, finally. Took forever. I bet you if I had more drive and more passion earlier in my career, that would have happened sooner. If I had more vision earlier in my career, that would have happened sooner. But again, I'm not a business person by trade. I've just learned to do it.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's all, Did I make mistakes? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a ton of mistakes. But you go through it, you figure it out, and then you keep making mistakes, but you hopefully make less mistakes than successes, right?
Yep.
So
that's awesome, man. I love it. I love how the end of this was like really like just motivating, like because might be like, I don't know, I've been working hard. Now I got to double my work to double my revenue. It's like, no, you don't. I read a really good book.
Wrong way. Yeah.
Yeah. I read a really good book recently, Benjamin Hardy, 10X is easier than 2X. And when you think I want to double, then you go, okay, I got to work twice as hard. It's this like limiting factor, but it's like, okay, I got a 10X. It puts your mind in a reality of, okay, I can't work 10 times as hard, but if I'm at a 10X, it totally reframes how you approach the problem. And I could not agree more with how he kind of breaks it down. And it's a very simple concept, but it's so true. And that's exactly what happened to me at Alltech is we were growing, but not as like there were multiple times where I had to stop marketing. Like 3 times where it's like, no, we can't, we got to put a halt on everything. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like I'm obsessed with growth. Like I'm obsessed with going higher every single day. And if we can't do that, I need to find an avenue where I can 10X, not 2X. And like, that is literally part of the journey that got me to MSP Camp. It's like, I need something that I can put so much time and energy and passion to that I can sell unlimitedly. And like that, it was very important to me as I was looking at my next venture. I was like, it has to have MRR, has to. Like I lived on MRR at Alltech and it's the best thing in the world because every time you close a client, it just keeps going like this. Like I'll never not have an MRR business, like ever. Like it's just the greatest. And I was like, and it needs to be as limited as possible on like customer service. Cause that was the other thing that drove me crazy. I'd have my whole day planned. And then it was like, oh shit, I got derailed with customer stuff.
Right.
And so like, if you're the salesperson listen at the MSP like right now, or you're the owner trying to be the salesperson, you got to get all that shit off your plate. Every time you get distracted with anything other than growing the business, it will take precedent and it'll ruin the progress. But anyways, and then it had to be something that could sell unlimitedly. Like onboarding has to be easy. Like it can't be like this super long thing. Like I remember we'd close a big $10,000 a month deal. I was super stoked. And like the month of just onboarding or whatever. So anyway, I'm kind of going on a rant here, but Zvon, really, dude, really appreciate your perspective today. Really wonderful talking to you. I'm so stoked you're getting involved with the Grow Group. Really appreciate you being willing to come on and help other members, man, and just listeners. That's amazing. Is there anything else you kind of wanted to touch base on today before we kind of wrap up?
Not really, man. I'm looking forward to what MSP Camp has to offer. I think it's important that you guys who are sort of running the programming of it have been an MSP in some capacity. There's nothing worse than somebody who's just been on the outskirts of an MSP trying to tell us how to run an MSP. Sort of like vendors who have no idea how MSPs work. It's like, dude, come on, like work with me here, and they don't get it. And the not getting it part, I don't feel like that's going to be a problem, right? So that's a good thing. I'm looking forward to some of the content. The content is so far pretty great in terms of overall. Content can always morph and adjust and stuff like that, right? So it's not even the content. The peer group aspect of this is really, to me, going to be fundamental because it's a structured process, right? And having some form of structure of like people with a mindset that are similar is very powerful.
Yeah.
Because you almost now want to compete, right? You want to be the guy saying, I closed the most business this meeting. Me. I want some of that attention. I want somebody to give me a high five. And it's not ego driven when I say that.
Yep.
It's really about, I would actually not care, me personally, if I was the top or the bottom or the whatever. I mean, the bottom would be like, okay, I need to work a little bit harder, or I just had a bad quarter, whatever. I love giving people high fives when they've done a good job. There's nothing more satisfying. I prefer not to get them. I prefer to give them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need any like attention on my successes fundamentally, except for like my very close, my partners, my wife, family. That's fun. And even that, I don't get much of that from my family. They'll be like, okay, good job. You're working again. Great, whatever. But in a peer group, it's like, let me give you a high five. Can you want a high five? Tell me why you need a high five. I will give you a high five. I'll give you a damn hug. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Let's go. I love working together with people and then seeing some success come of it. Yep. It's so empowering for me personally that it drives me then. And I'm like, yeah, well, I want to do that too. Let's go. Let's do it together. And then I'm going to tell you how I succeeded. And then you're going to give me hopefully a high five and not be envious, because that's the worst, right? Envy is the devil. So let's stay away from envy and let's celebrate each other's wins, because that's how we all succeed. And that's how we'll all have more money. And that's how we'll all have more time, more importantly than money, frankly, to spend time with family, friends, this and that, and actually enjoy our lives for, the 5 minutes before the next printer doesn't work.
Yeah. Dude, everything you said is like almost exactly how I say it, because I cannot agree more with like exactly why we got value of our peer group. Everyone in our peer group right now is like a way bigger MSP. And so much of it was that like accountability. It's like, I want to grow. Like, we were the smallest MSP in our grow group. And I was like, no, I want to be the biggest. But again, not because like I want to put anyone down. It's just like, I want the high fives. I want the like, yeah, we're growing. We're showing up every quarter, But well, Zvon, man, really appreciate you. That was helpful. I know for sure someone's going to get a lot of value out of this. And I just can't wait to continue to see you around camp and talk to you again. So thanks again, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Pleasure. Cheers.
Awesome. And for the listeners, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.